Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
A very warm welcome to all my listeners to the very first session of Human Resource Management. My dear students, it's the time to understand what is the most important resource for any organization. I'm sure you people must have heard about concepts like organization behavior, citizenship behavior, and also along with that, employee retention, talent shortage, training and development, selection and recruitment. So these are the basic fundamentals of human resource management course. In this course, we'll be taking into nuances of various subdivisions like detailing of performance appraisal, compensation management, training, competency mapping, etc. So let's begin with the initial discussion on what exactly we mean by the term human resource management and what are various benefits and importance of this concept. Moving on to the introduction of the concept human resource management, I would like to highlight here that we have a concept of human capital management. Now, why am I replacing this term human resource with the term human capital? Human capital, when do we call anything as a resource? We call a concept a resource when we utilize it for some purpose. But we all understand it very well that resource has one characteristic, that it gets depleted, it gets exhausted. So do you think it is right to say exhausted and depleted human resources? It's a little tricky because when we give training to human resources, they do not deplete or exhaust, they rather grow. So when they grow, anything that grows, we can call it as capital. So here we can replace the term human resources by the term human capital. So moving on to human capital management and managing and measuring worker productivity, there are certain questions that we need to answer in detail while we are students of this course. So the first point is, what are the effect of HR on bottom line of the firm? So how does it affect towards the various processes in the organization? This is what we have to answer. The course also will help you answer, is there a significant relationship between the compensation and the worker turnover in the organization? Now, this is very fundamental question. What kind of remuneration we are giving to the employee and how much are we able to retain them? Retention is an important concept. Next question that the course will help you answer is, does worker training and development enhance retention? So this is what we were talking here about, that we need to have high retention. So does HR help? The concept of HR, that is training and development, does it help in retention, customer satisfaction and repeat sales levels? So these are the three areas which lead to good returns to the organization. Now, what value would you attribute to each worker? Now, what is important is, what value are we attributing to each worker? What do we mean by here the value? Value here means that what is the worth of each individual worker. So how much is each employee worthy of? How much are we thinking of giving them as a compensation? Further questions that we may get answers from human capital management is, are all employees alike and thus should be managed similarly, or should each employee be developed and managed uniquely? Now, this is another set of discussion point where we have to find out what we call as dissimilarities between individuals. Why dissimilarities need to be known? So that we can have tailor-made programs for them. So what brings out the best in each of the worker? What makes them maximally productive? and valuable to the organization? So these are the fundamental questions that any concept of or all the concepts of human resource management would be answering. We have to find out the best way to train every employee. Maybe an employee is weak in human skills, the other is weak in technical skills, and the third one is weak in conceptual skills. So we have to see what best we have to cater to each of the employees so as he becomes the best fit for the organization. And this best fit can then bring in value and organizational returns. So there is a concept which every organization thrives nowadays for. What is the concept? The concept is called as above average return. So if I may just put it here. This above average return is required by all organizations to maintain a good market share. And in order to have this above average returns, what helps the organization? Can you think of any organization, say for example, which has lots of computers, softwares, tables, chairs, fan, AC? And can you imagine this organization working without a human factor? It's not possible. So what is important, or rather most important in organization, is the human factor, which we also call as the internal customer. And this internal customer, when trained well, when compensated well, and when valued properly, gives what? The above average return to the organization. Thus, the organization takes a position in the market. Moving further, in today's scenario, we are going to discuss on what are the definitions of HR given by various prominent researchers. Then what are the activities, that is, what do HR people do? Exactly what is the work of HR department in the organization? Then HR management challenges. What external and internal factors influence what HR people do in organizations? So we are talking about what they do, but there must be some influencing factors which disturb them while they are doing, or maybe which help them while they are working. So we have to also identify those challenges. And then what roles HR people do. So what are the terminologies and roles that they have to follow while they are working in the organization? Let us start with the HR definition. So the concept here is, prior to HR, let us define the management part. Human factor we understand very well. Human being is the living being who is working in the organization, who has its own senses and intellectual capabilities to work. And this human being has to be managed in a way that it accomplishes the organizational objectives by utilizing various resources like physical resource and financial resource. These physical and financial resources are brought in a perfect line by the living beings, that is the human resources. And then comes what is a resource, as I have already told you, something which is the factor of production and that results in conversion of raw material to a useful goods and services. Here I would like to emphasize upon on raw material to useful goods and services, and this conversion is done by no one else than the human resource in the organization. So the concept of HR says that labor and manpower in the organization, it denotes the physical abilities and capabilities of the employees. The wages based on demand and supply are decided for this labor or the manpower. Now, what we are trying to highlight here is that this HR can be denoted in three different manners. One, it can be termed as labor or manpower in the organization, which is more for the operative work and which is based on the demand and supply of work, and thus it is primarily based on daily wages, weekly or monthly wages. Then comes the second category, which we call as the personnel. The term personnel has come from the army connotation, wherein during the world wars, people who were serving the army were called as the personnels. And since they were serving army, there were a lot of requirements to be taken care of for their well-being, welfare, health, safety, and other operative works. For all these things, there was a department managed by the army, which was called as personnel department. That is department which is managing the needs of these personnels. And thus the emergence of personnel management took into consideration. And thus now we see that these personnels are the people employed in the service, and they are employed as employees who are getting salaries rather than wages. So in general, the HR denotes resources of all people who contribute their services to the attainment of organizational goals. This is important. Organization goal is what I have just explained you. Organization goal is to have above average returns. This above average return is contributed by the services given by the human resource in the organization. So as per one of the researchers, Leon C. Medicine, the HR is the total knowledge, total word is to be emphasized upon here, that is summation of or sum total of all the employees that are there in organization. So total of knowledge, skill, creative abilities, talents and aptitude of an organization's workforce, as well as the values, attitudes and beliefs of individuals. Now this values, attitudes and beliefs is what contributes to organization culture. And this is extremely important in what kind of culture people are thriving or surviving. And when we talk about the basic requirements from workforce, it is KSA, what is we call as knowledge, skill and abilities of individuals that they serve, with which they serve to the organization. Also, human resource management is defined as the art of procuring, developing and maintaining a competent workforce. Now, there is an adjective added on to the workforce, that is the competent workforce to achieve the goals of organization effectively and efficiently. Now, let's discuss this term effectively and efficiently. When we talk about effectiveness, what does it mean? It means that the output is as per the desired requirements. What is efficiency? Efficiency is input over output. In which given timeline with the number of resources or amount of resources, what is the output? Being efficient means that we are able to produce the operative procedures properly, and being effective means we are able to reach to the results properly. So if a production unit has to produce 100 jeans, for example, the jeans that you wear or t-shirts that you wear, if they have to produce that in 1 hour, 100 jeans, and they are able to achieve the target, then they are efficient in their process. So we want our human resource also to be efficient while we give them any task. But being effective means that right kind of jeans is there without any defect. The color is right, correct, the length is correct, the sizes are correct. So when we achieve that, that means we are highly effective in our process. And we want our human resources also to be effective in processes, that when they are delivering to the firm, they should deliver the right content or right ability, right skill and right knowledge is given to the organization for organizational goal achievement. Moving further, few more definitions of human capital include our employees are, these definitions are from the organizations. So it says our employees are our greatest assets and ability to attract and retain them is the key driver of our future success. So here one organization has attributed success with respect to how the ability of the employee or the retention of the employee caters to the success of organization. Then comes the human capital is defined as the embodiment of productive capacity within people. So what is the productive capacity of an individual? How much hours can he devote to work? What is his skill level? What is his attitude level? What is his knowledge level? So it's the sum of people's KSA, as we have already discussed. Herein, two more terms have been added on in this definition, that is motivation and fortitude of the employees as well. So even if an employee has good knowledge, skill and abilities, but if he does not carry the right attitude or what we call as the motivation to work, he is not going to serve the organization. He may just kill time or may just utilize the resources of the organization for his benefits, but without, there won't be any benefit to the organizational production. So it can be given or rented to others, but only on a temporary basis. Its ownership is non-transferable. So what is it here? It is the HR of the organization. We may depute our HR to some other organizations on temporary basis, but the ownership is non-transferable. If you belong to one organization, until you resign, you are part of that organization only. Now let us have some insights into the importance of human resource management. Of course, by now we have understood that human resource management is important because it caters to the sum total of knowledge, skill, attitude and motivation along with fortitude for the organization. But there are certain specific benefits of having this department in the organization which leads to organizational goal achievement. So first is that it is one of the most important resources. Why it is the most important resources other than the physical resources and financial resources? Because it puts all other resources in place. A human factor in organization only knows how to utilize the funds. Human factor only knows how to utilize the machinery, how to utilize the material, etc., and how to cater to the customer. So it puts other resources to proper use. It helps transform lifeless factor of production into useful products. We all agree to it. The raw material is converted into a useful product. Capable of enlargement, that is, produces extraordinary things when inspired. So we have seen organizations doing wonders like our space research organizations, our hospitals. They are doing good research, they are catering good services to people. That is only because they have highly talented and inspired workforce with them. Also, human resource management can help organization achieve results quickly, efficiently and effectively. We have already discussed this, so I shall move further. Few more benefits of having human resources organizational department is it helps the organization to reach its goal. It employs the skill and ability of workforce efficiently. It provides the organization with well-trained and motivated employees. It increases to the fullest employees' job satisfaction and self-actualization. Now, this is something we should spend 1 minute on, that job satisfaction and self-actualization is achieved with the help of human resource management department's efforts. How? If an employee comes to the organization, he comes with big dreams. It's not only for earning money, but also to have some self-esteem in the organization, to have self-esteem in society, to have friends who are the social companions for them in organization, along with job security. So it is the responsibility of HR department to cater to the employee with respect to high amount of job satisfaction and help him realize his own personal goals also, which can tomorrow lead his success ladder to self-actualization stage. Self-actualization stage is when we reach to the point where we have achieved all goals both in personal and professional level, and now we are moving towards a philanthropic work which we wanted to do earlier, maybe when we were young, when we did not have that status, reputation and money, but now we have all those things, so we want to achieve that. So maybe if you wanted to open up a spastic school, an orphanage, or you wanted to donate to a blind school, or you wanted to pursue passion as a music, all those come under the self-actualization stage, and this is helped by the HR department by catering right to the organizational members. Moving further, HR department also helps in developing and maintaining a good quality of work life of the employees. Now here the quality of work life means that we are giving employee ample opportunities to spend time with family and spend time on the leisure activities that the employee intends to or wishes to, because these are the two factors which will rejuvenate the employee again to work further in the organization. Also, communicating HR policies to all employees. This is the role of HR department, so that there is no gap in communication and no bottlenecks in communication. Further, the HR department focuses on having ethically and socially responsive to needs of the society. Why needs of the society? Because here, first, people of society who are working in organization, whom we call as employees or the internal customers, and these internal customers, if they are happy in organization, they in turn take care of the requirements of the external customers whom the services are rendered or products are served. Now, the concept of features of HRM. Now, what do we mean by the term features? Features primarily talk about the characteristics of any phenomenon. So, what are the characteristics of HRM? Concerned with employees, both individual or as a group. So, the HR department has to be very vigilant about individual behavior also and group behavior also. Development of HR covers all levels and all categories. It is not only focused upon managerial employees, rather it caters to unskilled, skilled employees, technical employees, professional employees, clerical employees, and managerial employees. It applies to all types of organizations. Irrespective of the nature of the organization, HR department works similar for all, and it is a continuous process. So hence we can say that the bottom line of managing is getting results. So organization is focused only on getting results, but with a consideration that the employees of organizations are happily contributing towards those results. And along with that, HR creates values by engaging in activities that produce employee behaviors that the company needs to achieve its strategic goals. So that means we are also trying to convey that HR focuses on inculcating the right kind of behavior in the employee, behavior which tomorrow will lead to achievement of desired goals. Now, for example, if an employee comes late to the organization every day, what is it? It is his behavior. So what is required on the part of HR department is the amount of time that he comes late is lost and he is not working during that time properly. So the HR department has to put some measures and seek into that why is he getting late and how we can address to this challenge or situation. And we have to put as HR department some measures so that he is on time from next time onwards. This is, for example, one of the measures can be deducting leave. So the HR department can mention a rule or a policy. If someone comes late by 15 minutes for 3 days, his half-day leave is deducted. What exactly is this? This is a policy which the HR department can practice and as a result can reform the behavior of the employee who's coming late. So we are trying to modify the individual behavior as per the requirements of organizational work. Moving on, the objectives of Human Resource Management Department primarily have 4 considerations. One is the social objective, that is to be ethically and socially responsible to needs of society while minimizing the negative impact of such demands upon the organization. So societal concerns, what can be the societal concerns? One of the major societal concerns is, say, pollution. So the organization has to see that they are not causing any kind of light pollution, noise pollution, air pollution or water pollution or any kind of other differences in or other troubles in society or challenges in society because of organizational work processes. And the next it talks about organizational objectives. So needless to say that organization is functioning in order to achieve the organizational goals. That is their mission and vision that they have to achieve ultimately. Along with that, they have functional objectives also, and functional objectives are which are catered by different departments like HR department, finance department, marketing, supply chain, IT department. They carry out their functions. Collectively, these functions serve towards the major mission and vision of the organization. And then comes the personal objectives. So the organization also has to look into that they are catering to the achievement of personal objectives of the employees in the organization. There are 3 P's in HRM. Now, what are the 3 P's? 3 P's include people, processes, and performance. People we have talked a lot about that they are the strength of the organization. Processes here is evolve over time, that is IT-enabled environment facilities, engineering effortlessly. So what do people actually do? People perform the processes in organization. And while they perform the processes, they come up with some outcome or what we call as their performance. And this performance needs to be evaluated properly If this is not evaluated effectively, we cannot find out the gaps in the performance, and gaps in performance are the guiding stones for us for tomorrow. So hence, 3 P's to be focused by the HRM department. First, taking care of people. Second, taking care that they are performing the right processes. Third, they are performing the processes rightly, that is performance, and then evaluation of this performance for finding out gaps, if any, in the performance. Now, though I know that we are in an online mode and you cannot be there in person sitting here in front of me, and neither the scenario is reversed that I'm in front of you, catering you or teaching you this concept, but still I want to give you an exercise which you can do at your own pace when you are at home, and just see to it if you are able to extract some information out of it. So the exercise is: develop outlines showing how trends like workforce diversity, technological innovations, globalization, and changes in the nature of work have affected the college or university you are attending now. So I'm sure you must be attending some college or university, and you are listening to me as a support to learning to what you are studying in your university. So nowadays trends are there, workforce diversity. What does it mean? It means that the kind of people we have in organization come from diverse backgrounds and diverse skill set. So does this workforce diversity brings in any effect on the university and college nature of work? Then moving on to innovation. Now, what is innovation? Innovation means that we are bringing in something new. So do you think Google is the last search engine, or do you think Apple iPhone 15, 16 are the last phones that they have given? No. Or BMW, the latest launch, is the last cars they have launched? This is not the case. Every time something which is invented is floated into the market, and after some time some innovation or upgradation in the product features or functioning takes place, and the previous thing becomes obsolete. So this is the same thing, we call it as innovation. Sometime, after 10, 15 or 20 years, you yourself will say, oh Google, that search engine where we had to type, now this is something weird. You will laugh on yourself, though we used to use Google sometime. Like today we know that there were pagers and messengers earlier when we had started off our a journey in the electronic media, but in today's time there is no messenger, rather we have smartphones. So technological innovations are continuously taking place. With this technological innovation, how is it bringing in change in the nature of work, especially with respect to your university or college that you are attending to? Coming on to globalization, that is crossing nations boundary, how this trade across the globe is also bringing in change in the nature of work in your university. So you can have a write up on this and try to extract information. This will add on to your existing knowledge with respect to the subject. Now moving further, let us talk something about HR managers' roles. Now we have already discussed about various parameters with respect to HR definitions and the importance and benefits of HRM. When it comes to role, we have to find out whether it is more of technical role, whether it is clerical role, whether it is conceptual role, whether it is at middle level, lower level or top management. What are the different roles that are catered by the HR department or HR personnel? So this is important to know in two folds. One, tomorrow you have to work as an HR professional in the organization. So when you are working in organization, you should know what all roles you may cater to or you can take jobs in. And secondly, if you are working as an HR professional, who all are there in your department as your subordinates or as your seniors, and what kind of interpersonal relationship there is to be maintained. So let us try to understand different roles in the HR domain. So the first category is line and staff aspects of HRM. Line manager. Now, if you have studied during your initial studies of management, you have line functions. Okay, now what is line functions? You have at the bottom line, then you have executive, then you have assistant manager, manager, assistant vice president, vice president, managing director. Now all this caters to the line function in the organization. Line function, a manager who is authorized to direct the work to subordinates and is responsible for accomplishing the organizational tasks. So they are the line managers. Now who is a staff manager? Manager who assists and advises to the line manager. So there can be different staff managers in the organization. So they can be manager HR, manager finance, manager production, manager marketing. These are all the staff functions, or rather you can say they are the specialists. They are the specialists in their area and they contribute to giving directions to the, or you can say not directions exactly, the advices to the line managers. Let's have a look at line managers' HRM responsibilities. So if a line manager in HR department is taking care of subordinates and discussing with seniors, he has to first see to it that he is placing the right person on the right job. Second, he has to look into that starting new employees in the organization are given some kind of orientation. Now, what is orientation? Orientation is nothing but giving an induction training to those who are new to the organization. A new inductee or a new joinee has a lot of lack of knowledge when he joins the organization. He may not know what exactly the administration is all about, how many levels in organization, how many employees in organization, what are different departments, what does each department cater to, what is his role and responsibility, where does he have to sit, what are the resources that he can utilize. All these and all things which cater to the personal management of employee, that is his leave record or his attendance record or his promotion policy, etc. So all these things are given or informed to the employee during the orientation, and some socialization also takes place so that they become friends with the already existing employees in the organization. So it is the responsibility of the line manager in HR domain to take care of giving orientation to the employee or induction training to the new employees. Then training employees for jobs that are new to them, that comes under the orientation part only. Then improving the job performance of each person by telling them the gap in performance. So the orientation of the new employees, the major responsibility of HR line managers in the organization. Training employees for jobs that are new to them, of course. Improving the job performance of each person is what line manager has to take care. Gaining creative cooperation and developing smooth working relationships. So this creative cooperation is required for healthy culture in the organization so that people work amicably with each other, and having a smooth working relationship which is more of cooperative in nature. This cooperation is highly solicited by organizational managers. Interpreting the firm's policies and procedures for guiding the new employees, how they have to work. Also take care of the labor cost, as it may incur the overall project cost for the department. So that needs to be controlled. Developing the abilities of each person in organization and bringing them to maximizing to what they can cater to or they can work. Creating and maintaining departmental morale, because if departmental morale is missing, as a result, the productivity of the organization can go down. So in order to have higher productivity, morale and motivation of workers should be kept high, and protecting employees' health and physical conditions, that is health, safety and welfare, where they are working, the space provided to them needs to be properly ventilated, well lit, and proper drinking water and seating space to be given to them. These are the line managers' HR responsibilities. Moving further, let us see how HR is transforming in today's time. So based on various surveys, it is being identified that initially during the past years, the HR has to play only 20% of strategic role, and major role was of administrative, and the operational and employee advocate role was the middle part of it. In today's time, the transformation is taking place, and it is anticipated that in future the strategic role of employees or human resources will be 60%, and rest, the administrative work, will be narrowed down to 10%. Now this is, we all see, because of the intervention of AI in today's time. Majority of work which a computer which is to be done by the employees is now done by the computers, by the softwares. Various you can say calculations and data output or data interpretations are done already by the AI. Only the decision making, that is the strategic part, is to be catered by the employees in the HR department. So when it comes to administrative role, what are the roles that they have to cater to? They have to take care of clerical and administrative support like payroll and benefits of work. Then technology is transforming and how HR services are delivered in today's time. Outsourcing HR services to HR staff costs. This is also a part of administrative role. Operational and employee advocate role is role of a champion for employee concerns. That is how to resolve various issues that employees are facing. That is the champion role. Employee crisis management, in case we have less number of employees with us, or we have crisis with respect to the labor shortages, etc. That needs to be managed at operational and employee advocate role, and responding to employee complaints. So in any area where the employees are troubled or has some crisis or challenges, the operational and employee advocate role works. The HR strategic role contributes towards contributing at the table. When we talk about contributing at the table, that means that HR employees, they have to take care of various moves or directions, because they have the steering wheel in their hand with respect to where employees to be deputed, what training and capability to be enhanced, how much developmental activities to be taken care. All these decisions are taken by the executives, by the HR, and thus we call them that they take care of the strategic role. They have to contribute to the table. They have to contribute to the above average returns. They have to contribute to the profit making of the organization. So they have to also contribute towards the strategic objectives of the organization. When HR employees or employees from HR department cater to this role, they are termed into strategic role for the organization. Strategic roles also contribute to during mergers, if downsizing is to take place, restructuring has to take place, or during acquisitions, some kind of levels downsizing is to take place, or cultural integration is to take place. All these things, all these downsizing, merging cultures, and then integrating employees or reducing the levels in organization, all this is to be discussed by the HR people with the top management, and thus they become a partner in the strategic decision making. So this is what is explained: participating in decision making on mergers, acquisition and downsizing, and redesigning the organization, that is restructuring, etc. Thus the HR strategic partner has to focus on developing HR programs that enhance the organizational performance. Now, how the transit is taking place from the operational to strategic role of HR. We have by now studied that yes, the future is the organizational HR has to work for strategy more and less for the operative roles. The transformation is taking from being reactive to proactive. Now the employees or the organizational members are proactive in taking decisions rather than taking decisions once the challenge has occurred, which was the earlier times challenge. Initially, the HR was focusing more on collecting HR data. Now they are focusing on measuring HR metrics. And this is because of the AI tools. They are able to measure, not only to focus only on the collection of data. Responding to goals and objectives set by the objectives. So here it was responding. Now here setting strategic HR goals and objectives. Complying with laws, policies and procedures. And here developing and revising policies and procedures for the organization. Administration to evaluating the strategies, designing the programs to identifying the training needs in organization, and staffing jobs by recruiting and selecting employee to HR planning and linking with external staffing resources. And finally, the administrative based compensation plan to developing compensation which focuses on employee performance and retention. So here is the drift from operational to the strategic management by the HR department. What are the various roles, the titles given to them? So it can be a policy maker, an advisor, a counselor, welfare officer, or a legal consultant in the organization. That can be recruiter, trainer, coordinator, or mediator. And in strategic role, they can be strategic partners or change agents in organization who cater to various different functions in organization as mentioned here. Now, coming on to what are the qualities and qualifications of a personal manager which are required. So, you also need to understand these well. Tomorrow, if you want to work in the HR department, you should have these skills with you. So, personal attributes are resourcefulness, perception, initiative, analytical ability, understanding, perseverance, and understanding of human behavior, which is most important. Skills and in educational skills wherein you have a degree in management or human resource management, executing skills, discriminating skills, and leadership skills. These skills all cater to development of HR department, and experience and training, professional attitudes, knowledge of various disciplines is solicited so that they can take rather good decisions. Scope of HRM is very vast as it is connected with almost all functional areas of the organization. It starts from employee hiring to remuneration to motivation, maintenance, relations, etc. And it covers all major activities in the working life of a worker. What do we mean by the major activities in the working life of the worker? So, since the person gets selected, from selection to till the person gets retired or what we call as separated from the organization, all functions during this time are covered by the HR department in the organization. Now let's have a quick insight into a concept of high performance work system practices. What do we mean by this? Let us break it into two terms. We wish to have higher performance than average, and we are looking into what work systems or practices give us high performance. So out of all HR activities, there are certain specific HR activities which focus more towards getting the results, and these specific HR activities include employee security, selective hiring, that is being very particular in hiring individuals, and extensive training, self-managed teams, reduced status distinction, information sharing, contingent pay for performance, transformational leadership, measurement of management practices, and emphasis on high quality work. So transformational leadership is what? Transformational leadership is when the leader in the organization is not only transacting, that is communicating between various parties or various sections, divisions or departments, rather the leader has a vision, and this HR leader has a vision of transforming the organization, taking it to a greater heights, increasing its market size. That is the transformational leadership work. And with his vision, the transformational leader makes the organization a great success. Now, what are the benefits of having this high performance work system? It creates more job applicants because it builds a brand for the organization. If an organization has a brand, like you must be knowing about various organizations like Google, Microsoft, PwC, BCG, etc. So they have built a brand, and majority of people who they wish to work with these plans. So thus generating more job applicants because they have high performance work systems. Screen candidates more effectively so that they select the right person for themselves. So this effectiveness is required. Provide more and better training to the employees. Training is also focused. Link pay more explicitly to performance so that people have high job satisfaction and happiness level at the work. Provide a safer work environment to the employees so that he is willing to work with the organization without any fear. Produces more qualified applicants per position. Thus, we have a lot of choice to choose from when it comes to selection process. And hiring based on validated selection tests. So it is very technical. Provide more hours of training for new employees, and this enhances their skill and qualification. And then conduct more performance appraisal in order to tell them where they lack in their performance and how this performance can be improved. Measuring HR's contribution in the organization. So we have to also find out how the HR department is contributing to organizations. This can be done with the help of concept of HR scorecard, that is, it shows the matrix of the firm for different HR activities. So this scorecard enables the HR people in organization or the managers in the organization to see that what are various HR activities contributing to the table. Measures the employee behavior resulting from different activities. So first activities and then catering to the behavior. Measuring the strategically relevant organizational outcomes of those employees' behavior. So this behavior leads to strategic outcomes. This is how the chain is derived. So first level is we get to know what are the activities which are done by the HR department. These activities contribute to individual behavior. Behavior is modified, changed or trained accordingly, and this individual behavior contributes to strategic outcome of the organization. Now let's have some discussion on the concept of personal management, which I introduced to you a little while ago, that the personal management came into existence from the army setup, and it was primarily utilized during the world wars, and since then this personal management evolved into human resource management. So what is the difference between the two terms? One is the personal management is about careful delineation of written contracts between employee and employer, while human resource management aims beyond the contract. It is not only that if something is written in the contract will be only catered to, rather it is more of taking care of human beings with humility and humanity and getting the best output from them. Then importance of guiding clear rules is the focus of personal management, while the human resource management have a broader outlook and impatience with the rules. Behavior is you have to conform to the practices, you have to conform to the norms, and you have to follow the customs. While in human resource management, value-driven initiatives are done in order to achieve to the mission. So worth of the employee and worth contributing to the organization both are measured. Managerial task of personal management more was of monitoring the employee performance, so like a policing kind of thing, while in human resource management the focus is on nurturing the employees. Management's role here was only transactional to communicate. In human resource management, the management role is transformation, not only to communicate but also to have a vision for organization and strategic moves. Communication was indirect. Here a direct communication takes place. Reach temporary solution in conflict handling, while in human resource management it manages and creates a climate and culture where or in the conflicting or conflicts can be handled with ease and grace. With respect to training and development, personal management controlled access to courses. There were controlled access to courses, while in human resource management, the organization focuses on the learning achievement or learning orientation of the employees. Focus of attention for interventions in personal management was only personal procedures, while here it ranges from cultural, structural and personal strategies. Personal procedures were, as I told you, maintaining the leave records, maintaining their salaries and taking care of where they are deputed and what roles to be given to them. But the human resource management goes a little mile extra in inculcating the cultural worth also. Shared interest in personal management is interest of organization is the foremost or uppermost, while in human resource management, mutuality of interest is focused. Both the organization and human beings are important, and thus a mutual beneficiary relationship has to be focused upon. So the nature of employment relationship in organization is more to be discussed from the psychological contract perspective between employee and employer. Yes, of course, there is a written contract between employee and employer, and that written contract is are the terms of or conditions of employment, but beyond this written contract, there is a psychological contract because of which both are bound together. And how do we achieve that? So there is an employment contract, employee effort, rule and adherence to what he is supposed to do, what the employee has to do, plus employer reward and job security that the employer provides to the employee. The expected outcome out of this employer contract in presence of human resource management practices and leadership. So they become as a catalyst for the process. With HR practices and leadership, and with this contract, there develops a psychological contract between the employee and employer, which gives the important aspects like commitment and motivation of the employee. This move up, this becomes quite high if HR practices are positive and leadership is giving right guidance and nurturing to the employees. And thus, the right kind of, you can say, maybe a good formula is that we achieve the high performance. So what we wish to communicate here is that if the relationship between the employee and employer has a positive psychological contract, which is beyond the written contract, then we can expect the high performance. And this positive psychological contract can be achieved if the employer is taking care of reward, job security for the employee, and employee is taking care of the efforts he has to do, the rules he has to follow, and he is adhering to the rules within the given premises. What are various activities and functions that any HR persons do? It includes environmental. We have a business environment, which is the external business environment. And thus we have internal HR activities catering to the external business environment. So internal HR activities include staffing, which has job analysis, recruiting, selection. We shall be doing this in detail later. So I'll focus on the major activity. So the major activity here is staffing, HR development, compensation and benefit, health, safety and security, employee and labor relations, strategic HR management, and equal employment opportunity for the workers. So these are the various HR domains or sub areas which we shall be studying in detail as independent chapters during the course of study. Why study HRM? We by now know that we have people, they possess skills, abilities and aptitudes that offer competitive advantage to any firm. Competitive advantage is extremely important for what kids? Students. We have already discussed above average returns. So competitive advantage which leads to above average returns. And where do we get this competitive advantage? We get through skills, abilities and aptitudes of the people. So you as HR managers, you have to focus on this. We also have to take care into consideration that whatever is the AI, to any extent if AI is developed, but no computer can substitute the human brain. The kind of neurons or the number of neurons or the capability human brain has to think, visualize and execute cannot be matched with the AI. So no machine can run without human intervention also, and thus no organization can exist if it cannot serve people's needs. So if some organization thinks that they can only run with the AI, it will be very challenging and difficult for them. HR is a study about people in the organization and how they are hired, trained, compensated, motivated and maintained. So when we talk about making the employees motivated and maintained in the organization, eventually what the organization is doing, the organization is trying to enhance the skills, abilities and aptitude of employees by giving them training, by giving them right compensation. And once that is achieved, the competitive advantage is also achieved by the organization. So if I conclude this chapter in few terms, what we have studied in today's session, students, we tried to have an insight on what is the introduction of human resource management, how the terminologies personnel management and human resource management are different from each other, how human resources can also be called as the capital of the organization, since if we invest them properly, they grow. And not only that, we also studied after definitions what are the various importance and benefits of having HR department in the organization. We then went further and studied about the roles and responsibilities of HR people in organization, primarily the line and staff functions which we discussed. In detail, we had a thorough insight on what are the line and staff managers' roles, wherein line manager has to take care of the decision making towards their subordinate, communicating, having a transformational leadership role, etc. And after that, we studied about various activities which we have to study in detail. Right now, I have given you a glimpse over the activities like development, training, aptitude building, then compensation for the employees. By saying all this, we intend to inculcate in you the sensitivity towards the concept of human resource management, to treat them as resource oblique capital in organization, nurture them in a manner that they contribute to the competitive advantage, because this is the biggest asset the organization has. With the skills and capabilities that human resources have, the organizations can do wonders. And if you look back into the society and see that what all organizations have grown to the apex, it is because of the visionary leadership and the right kind of team management or HR management of the organizational people. So here I would like to conclude the session, and thank you all for listening to the session and I hope the session has been fruitful for you and you have got a good insight on what exactly is the introduction to human resource management. I shall be continuing this introduction to human resource management in part 2 in the second session. Meanwhile, you can have a look towards various bibliography that I have referred to for this particular session, that even you can look into these books and enhance your concepts. You can also look in for some small caselets and cases from which you can get insights on real-time scenario of what HR department caters to. With the text and cases which are there in these books, it will help you enhance your know-how towards the detailing of nitty-gritties of personnel management and human resource management. So with this, I conclude this session and I thank you all for listening to this.
Hello and welcome to this piece of literary snippet. Perhaps the most popular literary genre after novel is the short story. Sharp, compact narratives whose charm lies not only in what is said, but also in what remains unsaid. Today I'll be reading one of the shortest instances of a short story that I have ever encountered. And indeed, the very charm of this particular story that I'm going to read out today lies in the way it abruptly ends. It is an ancient tale from Mesopotamia, which has been retold by several authors, among whom the name of Somerset Maugham stands out. The adaptation that I'll be reading out is perhaps the closest to the one that Maugham wrote. The story is titled, in all of its adaptations almost, as Appointment in Samara. Here is the story. A merchant in Baghdad once sent one of his servants to the market. The servant was supposed to buy provisions for the merchant, but when he returned, he came back empty-handed. Indeed, the servant had all gone white, and trembling with fear, he told his master that he had met death in the marketplace. When I entered the market, the servant said to his master, I was jostled by a woman, and when I turned to look at her, I saw that she was Death. I am very scared, Master, because Death looked at me with a threatening gesture. Can you please lend me your horse so that I can fly away from Baghdad to the town of Samarra and thereby escape death?" The master, being a good man, gave his servant his best horse and saw him gallop off to Samarra to escape death. Then the master himself went to the marketplace and confronted Death. "Why did you make a threatening gesture to my servant?" asked the master to Death. And Death replied, "It was not a threatening gesture. Rather, it was a start of surprise. I was astonished to see your servant here today, because this evening I have an appointment with him in Samarra." See you in the next episode of Literary Snippet.